Welcome back to the class on human resource management. My name is Aradhana Malik. I've been helping you with this course. In the last class, we were talking about pay and incentive systems, and we discussed the pay and incentive systems for individuals. Now, let's revisit a few things here. We talked about incentives for performance incentives, the requirements of performance incentives. We also talked about incentives for executives, and I didn't have a chance to explain this fully to you, so I'll take this opportunity to finish this. We need to know how and why long-term incentive plans for senior executives are required and how are they to be implemented. So, since short-term incentives are indicative of and a result of short-term productivity, their value is short-lived. For senior executives who've been with the company for a longer period or who have a much higher stake in the organization, we cannot really get by with just short-term incentives. We need to give them something more, and so we need we need to keep them hooked on to the company because they are taking a lot more responsibility. They have higher stakes in the organization, and so in order to enhance the perceived value of incentives for senior executives who are taking on a lot more responsibility, who are making much more difficult decisions, who have a higher stake in the organization, we need to plan for long-term incentives. Then long-term plans also encourage stability for senior management. So when we give them long-term incentives, we ensure that we tell them long-term incentives refer to incentives that are given to them for that come to fruition after a period of time, and they are much more in value, and they are perceived to be much more meaningful for the executives. So people feel a sense of stability with the organization, especially the senior management. They also facilitate the development of new processes, plants and products that open new markets and restore old ones. Designing of strategic gains rather than short-term contribution to profits. So long-term incentives usually tie in with the long-term strategy of the organization. You plan for whoever you think is going to be there in your management team after a period of time. Management team is the people who run the organization. So when we talk about long-term strategy, strategy involves knowing who is going to run the organization, who is going to carry out the tasks that have been planned, and how. If you know that a senior executive is likely to continue in a position for a longer period of time and see the plans come to fruition and evaluate those plans and develop them further in order to somewhat or somehow achieve the strategic objectives of the organization, then it's easier to plan. If you don't know who's going to be at the helm of affairs, then it becomes very difficult to plan for these things. So ownership of processes and results. If people have a higher stake in the organization, they are likely to own the processes. They are likely to feel that feel a bonding with these processes. They are likely to accept responsibility for the activities they undertake. So ownership of processes is an essential element in ensuring the achievement of strategic objectives of the organization, and that is why we have long-term objectives for senior long-term incentives for senior executives. Incentives for lower level employees, we set workload standards. Management's responsibility is in this is to describe the job by means of job analysis, to do a motion study, decide how the job is actually done, come up with a step-by-step procedure of how a job is done, do a time study, decide how much time it takes to do a particular job. Okay. Then we have guidelines. As far as lower level of frontline employees are concerned, the jobs that are done by frontline employees are usually highly repetitive. They have a shorter job cycle and they have a clear measurable output. and they are affected by the type of product or service that is being produced by the organization, the method of service delivery, the degree of quantification of service and or product, and the organizational needs including legal and social pressures. So, the incentives need to be focused around these workload standards. We set the workload standards and we plan to incentivize lower level employees at every stage of the work that they are doing, and for every function that they are undertaking. Okay. Let's move on to what I had planned for today. This was what we did last time. Today we will talk about team incentives. We talked about individual incentives which are given to individuals. Team incentives are given to teams, to groups of people who undertake a project with a purpose. A team is nothing but a group with a purpose. So, how do you incentivize the team? The advantages of incentivizing the team, the advantages of giving benefits to the team are: number one, it makes it possible to reward workers who provide essential services to line workers, indirect labor, yet who are paid only regular base pay. So, when we incentivize the team, we encourage cooperation, we not competition, we encourage cooperation among workers, and we give benefits to the team as a whole. The individual people, you know, the contribution of individual people may not be seen as very significant, especially the support staff. One of the students had asked me a question on a forum that I am not sure if I responded to it, or probably it was a mail, but anyway, I am responding to it now. And the question was, what is the difference between line worker and a staff worker? The staff workers especially are the people who do all the running around. You have attendants in your offices. So, you have somebody who is a jack of all trades, who takes your papers from one office to another, who gives you photocopy papers, who gives you the office supplies you need, who you know, who fixes probably a screw that has fallen off. So, you have the support staff in every organization that don't really have any clear job specifications, that do whatever they are told to do. They are helping hands. Without them, the organization cannot run. These are the staff, frontline staff employees, and they don't get benefited by the incentives that are given to frontline workers whose jobs are clearly specified. But when we organize team incentives, we say, okay, all the staff, because this office is functioning so beautifully, the support staff in this office are going to be given a prize as a whole, and that way they can be compensated for the efforts that they put in, but the efforts that are not clearly measurable or visible or are not seen as significant till they are not there. Okay. The disadvantages of team incentives are: number one, the fear, there's a fear that management will cut rates or employees if employees produce too much. So, one big disadvantage is that you know, when you start incentivizing the team, then people feel that the management might cut their salaries if you produce too much instead of giving you the incentives. There is competition between teams. A team that produces too much keeps getting the incentives again and again. So, people feel that, you know, okay, if you are giving us so much of benefit just to compensate for your for the money that you are putting into our work, the base salary may be cut to compensate for whatever you are giving us, and there could be competition between teams. One team may try to outdo another by fair or unfair means. By fair means, great, it helps the organization, but when the competition becomes unfair, becomes unhealthy, then it becomes a problem for the organization. And inability of workers to see their individual contributions to the output of the team. If people do not see the link between what they are doing and how it is helping the team, then they are not so motivated to keep doing the work that they are doing. So, the biggest disadvantage in this is that the team gets benefited. In every team, you could have people who work very hard, and you could have people who are free riders, who don't work hard but take the benefits that are given to that team, and that could be enhanced if you give only team incentives and not individual incentives. Okay. Then we have organization-wide incentives. Organization-wide incentives refer to the incentives that are given to all the employees irrespective of their output, irrespective of the work they put in, irrespective of how much individual contribution or team contribution they are making to the organization. So, if the organization makes a profit, everybody right from the frontline workers to the CEO gets a piece of the pie, and metaphorically speaking. So, a way of incentivizing the organization for becoming more productive. One way this can be done is by profit sharing. Profit sharing is a system in which a percentage of the annual profit is disbursed to the employees annually. So, for example, you make say 100 crores in a year in terms of profit. And 100 crores is I think probably 1000 million, I am not sure of the conversion rates, anyway 100 crore rupees. So, you say okay, I will keep 50 crores and the rest of the 50 crores will be distributed to the employees depending on their stake in the organization. So, you give a percentage of the profit to everybody. So maybe every single employee gets some fraction of that 50 crore profit that you are trying to distribute among the workers, and so you feel that it's because of you that the organization has produced so much, and everything is laid out in black and white usually. Gain sharing is productivity based. It's dispersed more frequently, and it's dispersed either quarterly or semi-annually, which means quarterly means after every 3 months, or semi-annually. Semi means half, annual means year, so half yearly. It is encouraged through participative management and cooperation to result in behavior modification. And I would like you to do this exercise. I want you to go back to your internet, and I want you to figure out the differences between profit sharing and gain sharing, and please feel free to post your responses on the forum. This is not an evaluative exercise, this is just to get the creative juices flowing of those who have been very interested in this course. I want you to think more, and I've given you a little bit of information. Let's see how much you can dig out, and I will respond to your queries on the forum. Just try and tabulate the differences between profit sharing and gain sharing types of incentivization for the organization, and let's see what you come up with. Okay. Employee stock ownership plans are another way of giving people organizational incentives. The reasons for employee stock ownership plans are mergers and acquisitions. It's an expensive way of borrowing money. It enhances the belief in employee ownership. Employees feel that they have a stake in the organization, and it increases the ownership, the feeling of ownership by the employees, and it also gives the employees additional benefit. The conditions for success of employee stock ownership programs are large contributions by the company to the plan. So, employee stock ownership plan involves a significant contribution from the organization to the plan. It also includes a commitment of management to the employee ownership. I mean, the management has to be convinced that employees are going to be part owners in the organization, otherwise this plan cannot succeed. It also requires that employees be included in the decision making processes of the organization. If they are going to be part owners, they have to have a say. They must have a say in how the organization functions and in the major decisions of the organization. There needs to be a transparency in communication, and the plans that are made for, especially for incentivizing employees, need to be employee centric, not organization centric. They need to be able to genuinely benefit the employees who they are being made for. Pay for performance systems. Some of the assumptions we make when we design pay for performance systems are individual employees and work teams differ in how much they contribute to the firm, not only in what they do but also in how well they do it. So when we talk about pay for performance, we make a few assumptions. The second assumption is the firm's overall performance depends to a large degree on the performance of individuals and groups within the firm. The firm's performance is a result of what employees do at their jobs, and to attract, retain and motivate high performers and to be fair to all employees, a company needs to reward employees on the basis of their relative performance. Everybody cannot be given the same benefit. Different people who work differently need to be given different benefits. Okay, so depending on the amount of work they put in. Okay. Some challenges of pay for performance systems are the do only what you get paid for syndrome. People feel that the employees who are a part of the system feel that they will get only they will get paid for only what they do. So they only do enough to get what they want out of the system. They don't go above and beyond the call of duty. Unethical behaviors in order to get more out of the system. Negative effects on the spirit of cooperation. Unfortunately, pay for performance systems increase competition, not cooperation, because everybody is fighting for that piece of the pie that is going to be given to high performers. So people tend to undercut each other sometimes. There's lack of control. I mean, there could be some people who could be working 20 hours in a day, and sometimes this could get out of hand. How much do you plan for? How much can you incentivize people who perform above and beyond the call of duty? Difficulties in measuring performance. Again, unless everything is laid in black and white, it becomes very difficult to quantify the performance, to give a number, to make the performance measurable. Psychological contracts, which is a set of expectations based on prior experience. So when we talk about a psychological contract, we feel that okay, if a person is a high performer, then the person will continue to perform high, well, even in adverse conditions. And we formulate a set of expectations about people based on their past performance. This is not we have the horns and halo effect. This is not the horns and halo effect. This is just a we form a set of expectations. It's a give and take. When we talk about contract, it's a give and take. You are a part of the organization based on what you've done earlier. I am expecting you to do this much, and that is a psychological contract that is formed between the employee and organization. And when we talk about pay for performance, employee says, I'm doing so much, so I am expecting the organization to give me this in return. Okay, credibility gap again becomes a challenge. How do you decide who is credible enough, who is not? How do you establish the credibility of employees who may not be able to work so well under this much of pressure, but who may be much more committed to the organization? Then job dissatisfaction and stress is a result of performance, pay for performance systems. I mean, if you are constantly under the gun to perform very highly, then you could be under stress. You could feel dissatisfied with your job. We are all human beings, and we all have a limited capacity for how far we can run. We need to stop and take rest, and there are some people who can run for a longer period than others, and the people who are not able to do it for various reasons feel uncomfortable. Potential reduction of intrinsic drives. You feel the internal drive to do well because you want to do well reduces. This is after all external motivation, something outside. This is a carrot hanging in front of you, and you're running after that carrot, and you are told that if you don't, you'll only get how much what you work for, and no more no less. So we are all human beings, we are not machines, we are not really governed by the input and output philosophy. You know, in most of the cases we try to be like machines, but at the end of the day we are not machines. On some days our productivity will be very high, on other days it may not be so high. So we are looking at averages. The whole concept of salaries focuses on averages of a person's expected output or the actual output. And so it's not, so one day you work for 20 hours and you get this much, and on the other day you're only able to work for 5 hours and you get a little bit, and so that could, you know, create an imbalance on, I mean it creates perpetual stress on you to perform. And so it's all externally driven. You don't feel like doing it, you just know that you'll get only what you get paid for, not what you want to do. Okay. Some steps in creating job-based compensation plans: achieving internal equity. There is job evaluation, which is a process intended to prove a rational, orderly and systematic judgment of how important each job is to the firm. You conduct we talked about equity in a previous lecture, but how do you achieve this equity? You first conduct the job analysis. In order to evaluate a job, you analyze the job, you write the descriptions, you determine the job specifications, then you rate the worth of all jobs using a predetermined system using compensable factors, and then you classify, you create a job hierarchy based on the above. Then you classify the jobs by grade levels using either a ranking system, which means sorting jobs into grades without using a point system, or you use factor comparison. You policy capturing. Policy capturing refers to the estimation of relative value of each job based on the firm's existing practices using mathematical analysis. So you evaluate each job and you create internal equity, internal similarity in the assessment in each job. And then there's some drawbacks of the job-based compensation plans. Job-based compensation plans do not take into account the nature of the business and its unique problems. So they could be subjective and arbitrary. They could be with new developments, jobs have become more broadly defined and generalized, so evaluation of relative importance of jobs is difficult. How do you decide which job is more important than another? They tend to be bureaucratic, mechanistic and inflexible. So it's difficult, it becomes difficult to implement the concept of variable pay, and it also becomes difficult to adapt to the changes in the economy. Changes in the economy can lead to a difference in how the jobs or the value of the jobs is perceived. Wage and salary data obtained from market surveys are not definitive. So how do you know who is paying how much to its, which organization is paying how much to its employees? Many times these things are not disclosed and the secondary information is not reliable. So when you talk about job-based compensation, it becomes very difficult to determine how much you should pay your employees. The worth, the relative worth becomes very difficult to determine. The employee's perception of equity counts more than the employer's perception of equity. Now these plans are not employee friendly. An employee will work harder if the employee feels that they are she or he is being treated fairly. And when we talk about, when we implement job based compensation plans, we are not talking about the perception of the employees regarding how much they should get paid. The organization decides this, and that can be a problem. It's not comfortable for freelancers and knowledge workers like educators and researchers who compete for work in an open market and are creative multitaskers. These jobs are, these plans are more conducive for jobs that are measurable, that have measurable outputs, that are that are repetitive, that have very clearly defined boundaries. Okay. Some suggestions for practice: you need to think strategically in making policy decisions concerning pay, securing employee input. just get the employees to give you suggestions on how to implement these plans. If you are actually planning on implementing a job based compensation plan, increase each job's range of pay while expanding its scope of responsibility. So enhance the range of the pay that you give to different people for different jobs when you increase the scope or the scope of responsibility. Suggestions for job banding: how do you band jobs? You put them into different bands, different categories. Examine statistical evidence periodically to ensure that the job evaluation system is doing what it's supposed to do. Expand the proportion of employees' pay that is variable. Develop policies for so-called knowledge workers that specify the types of paid external opportunities that they may pursue while still remaining employed by the firm. Establish dual career ladders for different types of ladders for different types of employees to so that moving into management ranks or up the organizational hierarchy is not the only way to achieve a substantial increase in pay. So there could be people who could do several things at the same time, and having dual career ladders would help such employees go up in the system and still feel motivated. How do you meet the challenges of pay for performance systems? You can link pay and performance appropriately. Piece rate systems refer to systems where workers are paid per unit produced. So, for every unit that is of product or service that is produced, the workers are paid separately. You could use pay for performance as a part of broader human resource management system. You could build employee trust. You could promote the belief that performance makes a difference. So, make the performance worthwhile, make the employees, help the employees understand that evaluating them for performance is helpful. Use multiple layers of rewards. You could increase employee involvement. You could stress the importance of acting ethically. Pay for performance systems usually open the door to a lot of unethical practices, and it helps to constantly reinforce the belief that employees need to act ethically as far as possible. Use motivation and non-financial incentives to keep them engaged in the work that they do. Some types of pay for performance plans: you have individual based plans, which is merit pay. We've discussed this earlier, and it consists of an increase in base pay normally given once a year. You could have bonus programs, lump sum payments, that is one time. You could have awards, which are tangible prizes. So, we've discussed merit pay systems. I'll still go through it once again very quickly. Actually, okay. No, I don't think I have the time for that anyway. So, I'll share these slides with you. Okay, plant-wide plans are something we have not discussed. Plant-wide plans reward all workers in a plant or business unit based on the performance of the entire plant or unit. The advantages of plant-wide plans are productivity, efficiency, commitment, and the disadvantages are protection of low performers. Some conditions favoring plant-wide plans are firm size, technology, historical performance, and corporate culture and stability of the product market. Corporate-wide plans are plans where you reward employees based on the entire corporation's performance, for example, profit sharing, employee stock ownership plans, etc. The advantages of corporate-wide plans are financial flexibility for the firm, increased employee commitment, tax advantages. The disadvantages of corporate-wide plans are employees may be at a considerable risk, as in ESOPs. There could be a high exposure to macroeconomic forces, there could be a large effect on productivity, and there could be long run financial difficulties. Some conditions favoring corporate-wide plans are the firm's size, the interdependence of different parts of the business, there could be market conditions and presence of other incentives. And that is where I will stop as far as this lecture is concerned. There are a few slides in this that I have not addressed. I will be sharing these slides with you, and they are pretty self-explanatory. So they just discuss the advantages and disadvantages of individual pay for performance systems and pay for performance plans, and they're very self-explanatory. You are welcome to contact me regarding this information on the forum, and I will respond to you regarding this. But thank you very much for listening to me, and we will continue with some more learning in human resource management in the next lecture. Thank you.